What's up and happy mental push-up Monday, baby. We here. And if it's your first time joining, my name is Andrea Fitzgerald. I'm an author, speaker, educator, and most importantly, I'm a person really obsessed with personal growth and development. So each week we get in the gym, we do our mental push-ups because the most challenging yet rewarding work that we will ever do is on ourselves. So building off of our greatness each week so that we can be an even greater, more inspired version of ourselves. This week, we are going to talk about exposure. And I promise you, over the past maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, I feel like I've been exposed to things that I haven't seen before. So I went to this movie theater. And I went to this spa that I'd never been to before, and I went to Ruth's Chris. But this movie theater to me was just like, oh my gosh, it was phenomenon to me. Because first of all, we pull up in this mall and it is so empty. I'm like, gosh, we've been to all these other malls and it's like cars everywhere, but this mall, there's not a lot of people there. And when I go inside, I begin to understand why. Because these stores, they are so high end. I mean, it was just like a whole experience up in there. And so then we go to the movies. We get our tickets. We go sit down. And I'm like, oh, you want something to eat? Da-da-da. I go to the little stand. I say, hey, we want some drinks. We want some food. Da-da-da. And so I'm like waiting. He was like, oh, no, you can go to your seat. I was like, why? He's like, oh, we gonna bring it to you. It's like, oh, that's a thing. I didn't know that. That's new to me. And I was just like shocked. I couldn't believe this. And then so the Ruth's Chris, I was like, that's a whole experience too. I was like, oh my gosh. I understand why people go there. The food is freaking good, and it is like it's worth it to me. So I realized that it's some power in exposure. And a couple key takeaways that I got from this. So the first one was that there is always more than your current reality. I think sometimes that we may say to ourselves, this is just how it is. This is just what life is. I go to work, I go home, I pay bills. And there's a whole other world out there. But there's more than what you currently see in front of you. And I think the second thing that I took away from that was until you see it, you don't know what's possible. And I say that because, I didn't know that people bring food to you, right? At a movie theater. But it made me think about books. I love books. Because they expose you to other ways of thinking. Now you plug and play, you figure out what works for you, but it's just like, that's an aha. So this book that I've recently been reading is called Platonic, and it's about having more robust friendships. But one of the things that was an aha for me was like courageous conversations. I think that in my mind, that the reason that I often run from conflict is because in my mind, it has to be this big to-do. Like, we have to be disrespectful. We have to yell and scream and this, that, and that's just not what it is. In this book, the way that this author approached conflict, it was so loving. It was so kind. It was so compassionate. And it was like, how do we work through this together? This, I felt sad about this, and it was, I just loved it. But because of being exposed to that, and now that I've seen that, I'm like, oh, this is how I want to do conflict. I'll figure out, what works for me. But I didn't know that you could actually speak in this manner and have like healthy, respectful conflict. That was an aha for me. And so now I'm like, how do I embody this? But exposure this to me is the value of books. Change your mind every time. And then the last thing was getting outside of the current bubble. I know I talked about this a couple weeks ago when I travel once a month, that I sit in my room, I eat the DoorDash, and when I got out, it was so much more so many things can happen outside of your bubble. So getting outside of that was, getting outside of what you currently know. Maybe hang out with people that I normally wouldn't hang out with. Maybe going places I wouldn't normally go to. Because when you're exposed to something, it changes your mind. And that was the ahas for that week. So get out there this week. Expose yourself to something different, right? Exposure changes the game. So thank you all again for tuning in. Get out there this week. Do those mental push-ups. If this added some value, please share, subscribe, like, all of that. And as I always say, be bold, be brave, and most importantly, friends, be you. And I'm out.